Hi, it's Chris J. Riegler, and I'm reviewing a book about entrepreneurs. Different kind of book this time, not a necessarily positive book, depending on how you look at it. Bad Blood. Absolutely compelling reading. I read it in a couple of sessions, all about the entrepreneur Elizabeth Holmes and how she went from saint to sinner. You know, is she the devil? Is she basically just had fantastic dreams and couldn't deliver it? What was her vision? What went wrong? Absolutely fascinating to see how she got carried away with the whole thing, how she saw glamour, how she saw the billions, and then it was built on nothing, built on sand. She didn't deliver. It reminds you time and time and time again, you have to deliver, you have to deliver, you have to deliver. If you deliver your clients, your peers, your employees, your shareholders, you have these kind of things. And she basically duped millions of people out of a lot of money. Well, actually, she duped a few people out of millions of dollars because she hadn't gone public. Which is absolutely fascinating to talk about how she actually raised the money. Things like when she pitched Rupert Murdoch, for example. You know, he did no DD whatsoever. He basically went on her personality, her charisma. And a lot of this book is about her personal branding and how her personal branding and charisma took over. Particularly older guys, older blokes, basically just enraptured by her and actually bought into her to such an extent that they didn't do any due diligence. And actually then she gave them millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. Absolutely incredible how basically her board was all basically older white guys who basically just had fantastic standing, and she used her network, she used influence, she used her charisma to actually convince them to endorse them, even though they had no medical certification whatsoever. Absolutely fantastic in terms of personal branding and being a salesperson, but ultimately she didn't deliver. And you have to deliver. As an entrepreneur, you have to deliver time and time and time again. You can't get around that. Now, it's quite amazing how she actually did it, how she went from startup to $1 billion brand and then collapsed, and where is she now? Absolutely nowhere in courts, but she'll be back. She's a personal brand, like many of these people. She'll be back, like Wolf of Wall Street. She'll be back. Her personal branding is now very high. Yeah, some people say there's no PR like bad PR. I mean, she has the worst kind of PR, but everyone knows her name. So I think actually it may be a controversial view, but she will be back at some stage with a new venture, talking about rehabilitation, talking about how she's sorry, talking about the different things. You read this book, you might not believe a single word she actually says, but it's absolutely fascinating the way she actually did it, how she built a brand, how she got people involved. Obviously, from a negative point of view, the signs were out there in terms of there's no peer-to-peer reviews of her medical, the laboratory tests. There was basically hoodwinking people around the reviews, the laboratories and so forth, and that's very important. You have to get your peers to actually say you're very doing a good job. You have to get recommended by people. She couldn't get recommended because her lab tests were all over the place, so she basically faked the tests, or basically did different kinds of tests, or did the more traditional tests, which got her into trouble because she wasn't actually selling anything new at the end of the day. So it's absolutely fascinating based on that, but she built and she got the funding based on networking and powerful connections and using her charisma and using personal branding. Absolutely fantastic. It's a brilliant story to see. You really got to read it in terms of lessons to do and what not to do. You've got to be true to yourself, you've got to deliver as an entrepreneur, and then you'll go far, because eventually if you don't deliver, you will be found out and you will crash and burn. So you've got to deliver, 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 deliver. Number one thing about being an entrepreneur, I would say, is deliver, and then everyone will say you're doing a great job, and then you will get more work as a result of it. If you don't deliver, you've got a fundamental problem, because you will be found out at some point in the future. So it's an absolutely brilliant book. I do recommend it. One of the best things about it is the way that the Wall Street Journal, who wrote it and covered it absolutely brilliantly. This guy here, John Carreyrou, absolutely amazing journalist, putting this together. But I love the way that actually he recounts the story about Rupert Murdoch, who was actually Elizabeth Holmes's biggest investor, putting $125 million into it. And she tried to spike his story, just at the peak of when he got the story, did the research, what had gone wrong, how she hoodwinked investors and people, and basically nothing she told anybody was actually the truth. And basically she went to Rupert Murdoch to try and get it killed on the basis Rupert Murdoch owns the Wall Street Journal, thinking, well, he's going to have self-interest here. And he said, no, the editorial team are different, they're separate, they're independent. And I love the fact that he was willing to basically give up 125 million, which he basically wrote off as a tax deficit, as a kind of tax loss, on the basis that the Wall Street Journal's integrity was more important than his 125 million. Bearing in mind how many billions of dollars the Wall Street Journal actually cost him, and how much he generates from every single day, you can understand why. But I love that about the Wall Street Journal. Obviously the integrity come through. There is hope for journalism. After all, if you read this book's amazing, absolutely amazing, worth reading from start to finish. You'll find it really compelling, especially if you're an entrepreneur. Go for it.